International Sword Swallowers Day is where sword swallowers from around the world all gather at Ripley's Believe It or Not museums and demonstrate the ancient and deadly art of sword swallowing. So I decided to choose to attempt a Guinness World Record, a sword swallowing stunt that I've never attempted before, and quite possibly one of my most dangerous records that I've attempted to date. I actually attempted the record, the longest sword ever swallowed to the hilt, and I managed to swallow a 61cm blade all the way down to the bottom of my stomach. So sword swallowing is in fact very real. They said that the hardest part of sword swallowing isn't actually swallowing the sword, it's proving to people that it is genuinely real. Which people still think it's a trick, they still think it's magic or an illusion, but it's not. What happens when you swallow a sword, it's a conditioning of your esophagus and your stomach lining and your gag reflex, which with training you can manage to swallow a blade. Some of the blades that I've got like handleless swords, because people think that the sword collapses into the handle. So I use that type of sword to demonstrate that there's nowhere for the blade to go except from straight down my throat. I swallow glass neon tubes that you can see the neon glowing through my throat from the inside. So I swallow swords and have people check with a metal detector to check that they're inside me. I also bring people up on stage and they can pull the blade out of my throat. It actually took me 3 years to learn how to sword swallow, so I was practicing every single day for 3 years before I finally managed to swallow my first sword. And I was a juggler back in school. I taught myself how to juggle, and friends being friends was like, yeah, that's really good, but can you juggle fire? So I went off and I learned how to juggle fire, and they said, you know, that's really good, but can you juggle knives? So I went off and learned how to juggle knives, and they said, oh, that's really good, is that? Can you juggle chainsaws? So I went off and learnt chainsaws, and it just sort of spiraled from there, and that's where the sort of whip cracking and the sword swallowing and you know, the chain escapes, straitjacket escapes, all that sort of just spiraled from there. The last record that I just set, the longest sword swallowed, that was actually my 9th Guinness World Record. I hold records for chainsaw stunts, for pierce weightlifting, lifting weights with the piercings in my ears, all sorts of swords with, all sorts of records with swords and bed of nails and all sorts of, it's weird and wonderful, then it's probably part of my show. In 2013, I set the record for the heaviest weight lifted with pierced ears. So I lifted with hooks placed through the piercings in my ears. I managed to lift 14.9 kilogram cast iron weights off the floor, which got me into the Guinness Book of Records. The following year, I then set the record for the heaviest weight pulled. I pulled an aeroplane. I pulled a Cessna 172P aircraft using the piercings in my ears. And the reason I can do that is down to training, I suppose. I stretched my ears and shrunk them, stretched them and shrunk them, and did that for several years. And when you stretch them, it causes scar tissue. Scar tissue is tougher than regular flesh, so I've built up the scar tissue, which allows me to do these things, and it's less likely to rip. It could still rip, but less likely. So I want to push myself as far as I can. I want to break as many records as I can without obviously breaking myself.